What's going on, everyone? So I gotta talk about the loophole that the New York Knicks found with the new CBA and how the rest of the NBA may potentially kind of utilize this loophole to pull off various trades, as well as just signing free agents going forward. And this isn't going to be like just a straightforward Laker video, but we'll tie it into the Lakers because the Lakers can utilize this loophole beginning as soon as next season. But to kind of run it down, the Knicks and the Timberwolves did the Karl Anthony Towns, Julius Randle trade, right? DiVincenzo and a bunch of other pieces were attached to it, but that's essentially like the big names that were traded. But in that trade, in order to make the salaries work and kind of get everything to kind of fit, because neither team could take on extra salary. Neither team could also aggregate minimum contracts, yet the New York Knicks were able to do that in order to pull off this trade. And it was like, well, how were they able to do that? Well, turns out that the two sign-in trade pieces that they utilized, like Daquan Jeffries, they basically gave them the vet minimum, but an extra dollar. So it's not a vet minimum. So essentially, the vet minimum, let's say vet minimum is $3 million. They basically gave the vet minimum guys $3 million and $1. So it was more than a vet minimum because you can give them whatever you want. You just have to meet the minimum requirement. So they gave them more than a vet minimum by $1. So that way they could aggregate the salaries in order to pull off the trades. Now, this again is huge because the new CBA is very restrictive. And how you can go about trades going forward, even signing free agents and stuff, right, with the various aprons, things like that. For example, the Lakers are only $45,000 away from the second apron, right? But next season, the Lakers could potentially, depending on how things shape up, end up having some salary space, right? Because D'Lo fall off the books, their vet minimums fall off the books. LeBron James can essentially take the vet minimum if he wanted to, right? So the Lakers can kind of finagle the numbers if they want. I'm curious to see if teams like the Lakers, as well as other teams, instead of giving vet minimum contracts, start giving vet minimum plus, right? So again, instead of $3 million, give $3 million and $1. So that way, if you want to make a trade later on down the road, right, whenever that is, be in season, off season, whatever, right, you can aggregate the salaries. So, for example, the Lakers can't take Cam Reddish, Jackson Hayes, and Christian Wood and go get a $10 million player, right? They're not capable of doing that because you can't aggregate vet minimum salaries. But if those guys were making $1 more than the vet minimum salaries, well, one, they'd still be under that second apron, but two, they'd be able to now aggregate those salaries and now go get that $10 million contract guy. So you can see where this could be a thing and potentially impact kind of the way trades operate as well as just free agency signings. Now, from a player standpoint, the extra dollar is just semantics, right? It's to appease these guys. But for the actual organizations, that is more likely than not going to be the new norm going forward, right? Because it's not like the, Players Association or anything like that. It's not like they can just go and veto now the CBA and go, oh, no, right? Like, and the CBA is so restrictive and so just, it's overkill in a lot of ways, right? It is so handcuffing, and you have to find these loopholes and workarounds, right? Which credit the New York Knicks. Credit their creativity, credit the front office for being able to figure these things out and pull it off, right? Because no one else up until this point figured it out. I mean, granted, no one else really has made those types of trades, so that could be a big part of it. And it only really affects salary apron teams and stuff like that. But this could be a way to, again, kind of work around to where also like using this Knicks trade, for example, you had Charlotte, who was the third team, right? And now you could, if you needed to, so let's say, for example, you wanted to trade D'Lo, Jackson Hayes, Christian Wood, and Gabe Vincent or whatever, right? And you wanted to stack a couple vet minimum guys to go pull off a trade for whoever, Jeremy Grant, right? We'll just use him as an example. We'll use Zach LaVine as an example because so many people are like, you always use Jeremy Grant. I use Jeremy Grant because it's realistic. It's a real option. But I digress. Let's use like Zach LaVine, right? Well, now the Lakers wouldn't be able to stack all these pieces and do all that stuff to pull that off. But if Christian Wood was making the vet minimum plus $1, it's no longer a vet minimum contract. So now you could stack those contracts to pull off that trade. Or if you wanted to, like, let's say the Bulls were like, we don't want 3 vet minimum guys, right? Yes, they're making $1 more, but we don't want those 3 guys. We just want D'Lo and Rui, right, to pull off the trade. Well, now you could take those guys, the vet minimum guys, plus the $1, and send them to a third team. Right, so it makes 3-team trades easier. It makes, just straightforward trades easier if you want to stack guys. Sign-in trades, right? So, like, again, if you need, like, let's say the Lakers let's say they want to get Steph, right, in the offseason. Say Steph wants to go to Lakers. He only wants to go to Lakers. Let's figure it out, right? Well, now you could work out and do a sign-in trade. Let's say you need an extra $2 million to make it work, right, in salary, or $3 million, whatever, right? And it's like, okay, well, we can sign a vet minimum guy. Well, if you already have a vet minimum guy, you can't, again, aggregate, stack vet minimum contracts. So it's like, okay, well, let's give Jackson Hayes, let's sign him to a new deal, give him that extra $1, and then now you can complete the trade, right? So it gives you this full workaround, which, again, is pretty interesting. Which is why, like, I had to talk about it, and I wanted to kind of address it here on the Lakers channel. Definitely talked about it on As It Stands Sports. So definitely, if you want to kind of hear the Knicks side of things and how they were able to make that work in more details, go check that out on As It Stands Sports. But again, this is something that impacts the Lakers. This is something that impacts the entirety of the NBA, not just the Lakers, because now teams are aware, right? Like, it took the Knicks to kind of figure it out in this situation, in this type of trade to figure it out. But now, the NBA is a copycat league, right? So, like, now teams are going to probably go forward. I'm curious if teams even do vet minimums anymore, right? Like, straightforward vet minimums, right? Because, again, $1 is still a vet minimum, but by league standards, it's not. By league standards, it's not. And I don't, like, how does the NBA stop that? How does the NBA prevent that? Does the NBA even try to stop that and prevent that? Right? Like, because the NBA can't really, deals have to get approved by the NBA and stuff like that, but it's just to make sure that everything meets the criteria of the CBA. It's not like, Lakers and the Chris Paul situation where the NBA could just veto it, for basketball reasons. I mean, technically the NBA could do that stuff, but they wouldn't do it for something so minimal as that. Right? They're not going to do something for something that is so insignificant. But, does like the pride kick in a little bit? And they're like, hey, we need to address this before it becomes a thing. But again, like, the CBA is already incredibly restrictive. Like, I don't think it's something that's going to be so insanely impactful, right? Like, oh, now, like, teams are just going to sign 15 guys to a vet minimum and pay them all an extra $1 so they can trade 15 guys to go get Steph Curry. Like, I don't think it's going to be anything extreme like that, but it is that kind of piece now where if you need a guy or two to kind of make things work, or you need to kind of shed some salary somewhere, right? And it's like, man, because like right now, for example, Lakers would have to, like, if they wanted to trade Cam Reddish and Christian Wood to clear roster spots, they'd have to find multiple teams to kind of make that work that would be willing to take on salaries, and you have to give up assets in order to do that, right? But again, if you have a, Christian Wood and Cam Reddish both making vet minimums, plus the $1, now you can aggregate those two, and now you just need to find one team that's willing to take on the $5 million or $6 million, whatever it is, and $2 and then give up the asset, rather than now I got to find all these teams, plus I got to pull off this trade. Now I got to do that. It just makes things so much simpler and straightforward. And I think now teams will probably, going forward, instead of the vet minimum, it'll be the workaround kind of price. I really thought that was interesting and just needed to make a video to kind of go over that and kind of give my thoughts. But as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on to you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. What do you think? How do you feel? What are your thoughts? Think this is interesting. I think it's pretty cool that they kind of work around. Maybe it's just like the analytics basketball nerd in me. Like, I saw this and I was like, dude, this is awesome. I was just like, man, like, from now on, Rob Pelinka better. I do not want to hear a vet minimum. I mean, they might still announce it as a vet minimum, but it better be a vet minimum plus $1, so it's not a vet minimum. So it doesn't classify by league standards as a vet minimum, right? Because the vet minimum is the vet minimum. Anything over that, you're no longer a vet minimum, right? I mean, technically you could do like a cent or something like that, but I just think that's pretty clever, and I hope it's something that the Lakers implement going forward and on. But again, as always, this is a discussion, and I pass a question on to you, so let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out, helps me enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. Not subscribe channel, hit that subscribe button, turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate y'all. See you in the next one. Thank you.